you again, that little play on words. I got to just give it up to the people who at almost 1:30 in the morning here on the East Coast are still watching with us on Facebook. The commenters are getting a little delirious, but we are too, and so in that regard, we understand. Izzy, I want to go to you because, you know, now we're looking at a scenario where it looks like Republicans have won the House, the Senate, and have a chance to win the presidency. I mean, that would be a clean sweep. And yet, because, as you said, you do have a wild card outsider candidate, how do you even begin to put together a legislative agenda that is cohesive and coherent?
He has a very aggressive 100 days, which looks like deportation force, as some has said. We're going to tax everybody. We're going to build a wall. I don't think any of that is what the appetite is on Capitol Hill. I think members of Congress want to focus right now to show the American people that we are going to work towards something as opposed to take away from this nation. So I think Trump might go in saying, I'm going to go balls to the wall and I'm going to do what I want to do. But
that's right. It's 1:30 in the morning. We're saying balls to the wall. Go ahead.
But I don't think the appetite in Capitol Hill is that of Donald Trump. So I think they will serve as a check. I know some here disagree with that assessment, but I have faith that there will be some type of moderation brought on by Speaker Ryan and others. I know.
Where's it gonna come from? Yeah, not a chance.
There's just no evidence. There's no.
Look at the cabinet that they floated. It had Newt Gingrich as Secretary of State. Think about that for a second. It had Rudy Giuliani as Attorney General. There is nothing here that suggests moderation. People have been talking about Trump moderating for 2 years. They've said at some point he's going to pivot. At some point he's going to change his message. At some point he's going to broaden his appeal, and he just hasn't done that.
And he won.
Right.
Or if he wins, if we see a Trump presidency, he would have won. And he has no reason at that point. And at what Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, they've had no power to get Trump to do anything. Paul Ryan has come out and said, oh, Trump is racist. It's the definition textbook of racism. I'm not ready to support him. Oops, I better support him now because I get booed. And here's the other thing. For a lot of the things that Trump wants to do, he doesn't need Congress. He doesn't have to go up there for
Barack Obama just executive order.
Oh, you're going to wish he was Barack Obama.
I don't think House Republicans or senators are going to stand for that.
Yes, they will. They will sit for it. They will roll over and kiss and beg for it.
Look, I believe that Donald Trump is going to do balls to the wall. He's going to create his own mini nation that he thinks is going to work. But I don't think that type of appetite exists within members of Congress. I just don't see it.
I have no faith in the backbone of the members of the Republican House or Senate that they will stand up to anything Donald Trump wants to do. We have literally seen men and women who are elected officials flip after a tape where the man bragged about sexual assault. You think they're going to change their mind when he's their boss?
Okay, listen, I think we all understand that Izzy is looking for a best case scenario and one that behooves the future of the party. But I do just want to hear from Lauren, because you are probably closer to the thinking of Donald Trump's inner circle than anyone else on this panel. I mean, what are his advisors going to advise him? Is someone like Rudy Giuliani, who has swung far to the right of where he ever was in the course of this election, also going to moderate? Is Newt Gingrich going to moderate? I mean, who are actually going to be the voices that we can expect to be in his ear as he considers the possibility of governing?
Sure. So the one thing that came to mind as we were talking about all of this is how Donald Trump went from being a candidate who had no idea how to talk to conservatives about the pro-life movement, pro-life issues, and then all of a sudden brought a big team around him of the D.C. insiders when it comes to conservative pro-life anti-abortion policy. So he went from saying, oh, I guess we should punish women who have an abortion, which no conservative has ever really said before that I know, and that's definitely not a widespread ideology on that. All of a sudden he brings in groups like Susan B. Anthony List. He brings in, you know, other groups that come around him, counsel him, and say, okay, this is what a genuine pro-life policy would be like. And then in one of the last debates...
And do you believe that he is genuinely pro-life?
He's a flip-flopper.
I think that
genuinely anything.
Yeah. I think that he came into this not thinking that he would win. Didn't know the policies as well as he should have running for president. And I think he spent a lot of time listening to counsel, some of which he agrees with and some of which he doesn't. But I think that he will build a team where he listens to people.
But then there's having a North Star, right? There's having a worldview and an ideology and a sense of how all of these pieces fit together, right? So there are candidates that you cannot like and you can take issue with, but you can say that's a comprehensive and a cohesive worldview, and I understand how each part comports with the other. George Bush, for example. In this case, I think part of what is alarming people is that it's not clear how any one piece of this intersects with the other, right? So I think there's a question on the part of the pro-life community about whether or not he is in fact pro-life, and then I think there is likewise a question on the part of reproductive rights advocates about how far he's willing to go to prove that he is pro-life to his pro-life constituency. I mean, do you, as a supporter, have a real sense of where he is?
You know what, I think that he's going to hold true to what he's campaigned on, because if not, he's going to have a huge referendum against him right away.
But just to be clear, on what he campaigned on at the beginning, because as you said, he said that women who've had abortions ought to have been punished. That guy? Or are we getting a more compassionate conservative on abortion? I mean, which policies?
What I think you're going to end up with is the compassionate conservative, the one that he's built the cabinet around. Now, some of these people, you know, everybody else on this panel doesn't like. But if you look at, so again, when it came to Supreme Court justices, he didn't even look at the list. He just took a list that came from Heritage. He took a list that came from one other group up in D.C.
He said every justice should be like Antonin Scalia.
Yeah.
You may not like that, but his constituency and a lot of the Republican Party and a lot of conservatives are very happy with that.
And I think that's the bigger point here, which is that it is a mistake to say that Donald Trump is different from the Republican Party and that he is something that's unique. He is certainly unique, and I think he will be dangerous for the country as president. But at the same time, he is a continuation of what Republicans did in 2008 after Obama was elected. They stepped up and they said, we are going to fight everything that he's doing, even in the middle of an economic crisis. This is a continuation of that. This is that taken to its logical end. I think the idea that this is
true. I don't think that's true at all. I think there is if we want to get into the policies of this, there are true people in America that believe we need fiscal constraint, the debt is blooming, GDP was only at 3% this year, which is the lowest for a president, and I think that says that there's an appetite by voters, obviously, that they want something else. Obviously, they're not, again, I'm telling you, America does not know what they're getting with Donald Trump because he doesn't even know what policies he's going to implement tomorrow. But my point being is that there is an appetite for this. And if we want to talk about 2008, people had true concerns about auto bailouts, more bailouts, and I think that's what people are starting to realize. We are getting mandate after mandate. We keep growing the government. Obamacare is working in some parts, is not working in some parts. They don't want another Obama legacy. So I think that speaks to the momentum that is on top of this, on top of the fact that there's a guy that had a very populist message.
I just don't think that's true. If you look at Michigan, let's talk about the auto bailout. In 2012, Obama carried Michigan by a massive margin because of the auto bailout.
And look how Michigan's doing right now.
Well, I think that's not about. I think that's about a lot of other things.
I don't know.
You talk about this appetite. Look, the American people have appetites for all sorts of stuff. We have appetites for junk food. We have appetites for pornography.
Well, not in New York City. They want to ban that stuff.
We have appetites for destruction.
Your freedom to junk food is being limited by Democrats. I'm just saying.
The point being, there's all sorts of stuff that we have an appetite for that may or may not be good for us, and we have no idea. As Alicia mentioned, we have no idea what this person is going to do or what he is capable of.
Completely agree.
And that will disrupt this country in a way that no one can fathom.
The other thing that I find interesting is that if we're really going with the fact that he won as an outsider, Newt Gingrich is the ultimate insider.
Yes.
And not only is he the ultimate insider, he's a blast from the past. I mean, how old were you when Newt Gingrich was Speaker of the House?
Oh, geez, was I even born?
Yes, okay, that is the correct question. And so, you know, to me, the correct answer, and in some way, I think it does invalidate, if you're really analytical about it, this outsider argument. Okay, we're going to come back to this because there's somehow still more to say.